Welcome to Joy in Our Town. My name is Terry Bates. I'm the pastor of Faith Church here in Oklahoma City, and I have the privilege of being your host today for this program. It's an interesting challenge that maybe most people have not really considered, but it's the subject of the children of incarcerated parents. It's a much larger issue than probably what any of us have realized, and today Robin Curry is here to talk to us about the challenge that exists right here in our own city of children with incarcerated parents. Robin, thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is a unique subject, probably something that we all knew, that there were parents in prison that had kids, but tell us a little bit more about these kids themselves and maybe how big this challenge really is.
These children have unique issues, and many of them have behavior problems, and the minute a child's parent is incarcerated, the first thing that happens generally is that they begin to struggle in school. And this is for a variety of reasons, but most of the time they're grieving, they're in shock, they've been subjected to trauma. Some of them see their parent arrested and it might be a violent situation, and so the children undergo quite a shock as well. And if their parent who's incarcerated happens to be their primary caregiver, then they go through even more trauma.
My daddy that's in prison, when I was little, he got busted. I was just sitting there seeing my mom cry because my sister got separated from me. My dad that was in prison, he got out of jail. And then one day, he got busted again. Me and my sister was at his house. The SWAT team came and they busted down his door and they searched the whole house. They took us into custody, me and my sister. I was about 8. I won't be able to see my dad until I turn 16. So I've been through a lot of tough roads. Whenever you're sad or something's going wrong in your family, they talk to you or they pray with you. Like when me and my family didn't have no food, they offered me some food. They sent me home like a bag full of food, and I was so thankful for that.
It is a unique challenge, and probably the volume of children obviously is significant. I think one statistic that I read is there may be as many as 2 million across the United States children who have parents incarcerated, and one study that I looked at said that 55% of everybody in prison has children out, that somebody's having to care for out there. So the volume of need is significant. How have you guys, your ministry, chosen to try to address these challenges for these children?
Well, we have a special school that is specifically for children with incarcerated parents, and we take students that have a parent who even has been incarcerated that only has history, because we know that if a child's parent was incarcerated, that they were subjected to trauma, and most of the time students never recover academically from that incident. So we take students when they're 4. We have students right now who are as old as 14, but we're adding a year every year, and we take them right where they are. We begin to remediate their academics, but we have a therapeutic environment, and most of all, we allow them an opportunity to get to know the Lord.
So providing a school that specifically caters to these children, is that one way of maybe taking away the stigma issue that they might have in a public environment?
Yes, we call it the shame factor, and at our school there is no shame factor, because the children, although we don't talk about it all the time, the children know that everyone there has that issue in their family, and it lifts a huge burden off of their little shoulders. And one little story, last week we had the word jail in our spelling list, and I happened to be teaching that spelling class, and I said, would anyone like to make a sentence with the word jail? And one little boy just lifted his hand and said, my daddy is in jail, with no shame whatsoever and no reaction from the other students.
Right, because that's a lifestyle experience for all of them. Now, let's talk about maybe from the side of these children, because the separation factor from parents, a lot of them don't have readily access to their parents, maybe sometimes just because of the distance factor, right?
Yes.
So you guys have a critical role, not that you can replace the parent, but obviously you're going to have them for 30 hours plus every week in the school. You're trying to help with the reshaping so that this doesn't become a repetitive cycle in their life as well.
We're trying to help break the cycle of generational incarceration, because when you study the statistics, those children become 7 times more likely to become incarcerated before their 23rd birthday the minute a parent goes to prison. And so we have students who like we've got some little boys who every male member of their family on both sides is incarcerated, and these are from large extended families. And so we are showing them a different way and trying to help them develop a future story that can be different for them. And we want them to know that they have choices and that they can have a different ending to their story, but we always include Jesus Christ and the Lord, because there's lots of programs out there, but God is the healer. And we teach that children can do all things through Him.
So one of the questions I was going to ask you next was, obviously there's a lot of children and there's a lot of schools, but you have a Christian emphasis in your environment as well, and you have a unique set of children who have something in common, which is parents are incarcerated. So can you walk us a little bit through a little bit more of maybe the distinctives of how you're approaching that? Obviously you're imposing or introducing them to the Christian theme, but are there some other ways other than maybe just an accepting environment that you're helping create a better outcome for these kids?
Well, the children know that we have a therapeutic environment, for one thing. We have a therapy dog, we have plants, we help children, we're teaching them life skills, and it's just a general kindness that we teach at our school, and the love that we overarch everything we do with love.
I feel like the teachers are on my side. I like the teachers because they give you more support and they love you as a student. I think the teachers like me because they think I'm sometimes good as a kid at school and that I learn stuff and I sometimes listen.
They're good teachers, they're great, and they're very nice here. First they hug us before they get the day started so we can get happy and stuff, be happy and have a great start of the day. They love us and care for us.
I feel, and all of our staff feel, that it doesn't do anything to try to teach academics if children know you really do not love and care about them. So that's number one at our school, is that we love the students, and sometimes if they're having a bad day, we have the freedom at our school to take a student aside and pray with them.
I like the other kids in my classes because they share with you and they can help you feel better if you're crying.
Well, my best friend, London, was crying.
One time I was crying because I wanted to see my dad.
You know the song Break Every Chain? We listened to that song, and she just nowhere just started busting out crying, and I walked over to her like, "What's wrong, London?" She was like, "I miss my dad. This song makes me cry because I think of my dad." I said, "That's all right, because you know what? I have to wait like a lot of years to see my dad till I turned 16. She was like, "Really?" I was like, "Yeah."
And I went to the office, but then when I came back, everybody was saying, "Are you okay?" And they gave me hugs.
And sometimes they just need a time out in the office. They need to have a quiet visit. They need to go outside to our garden that they plant and tend and trim the zinnias. Yesterday they were planting pansies and arranging pumpkins in the garden. So simple things. It doesn't take a lot to delight a child, but simple God-given blessings that we introduce them to.
It's incredible. Do you notice a difference in the age factor? So if a younger child has been separated from their parent through incarceration versus maybe a middle age or an older student, do you see that they're having different coping issues with that?
Yes, some of our younger students are very developmentally delayed, so we have to go back in and remediate a lot of preschool and even babyhood things. Maybe they weren't rocked as a child, and so we have a rocking chair in our little playroom, and so we've rocked kids that are 10 years old. And it's just a matter of being able to deal with the children as individuals and as little people, and we're not trying to just shove them into boxes and teach at them, but we're trying to love them first as God created human beings, and then nurture them, and then introduce the educational part as we go along.
So you talked about the therapeutic environment, things like the therapy dog and obviously the gardens and plants and things like that you're engaging the children in, which are very therapeutic for even us as adults. We're dealing with life in general, so I can see its value. Do you also have maybe someone that is like a Christian counselor or someone that might need to address some of those deeper issues with them in a conversational way?
Yes, we have a Christian counselor who is retired from the Mercy Family Counseling Clinic, and she has been working with our students up to now. She's out currently on a sabbatical, but she has worked with our students, and she had developing profiles on the different ones. But she likes to call herself a prayer therapist now that she's retired, because she doesn't deal with them in a typical way. So she's a prayer warrior for them. And so our vice principal is a PhD, and she is a psychologist, and so we have a lot of that going on at the school.
Fantastic. Do you notice that the children, the households that you're connected to, are there multiple children in these families, or is it more like one child? Is it a one-child household? What are you seeing in a pattern there?
Most of our students have siblings, and so we have enrolled a lot of siblings. Now we're getting cousins because the word is spreading through the families. This is a good place for our children to be. And the interesting thing was we added a lot of students this last summer, and the mothers that were calling me, the thing they were the most excited about, yes, they were glad we had a therapeutic program for children with incarcerated parents, but they wanted their baby in a Christian school. And they said, because our school is tuition free, the students do not have to pay to come to us. We provide 2 meals a day plus a snack, their uniforms, their curriculum. All of our teachers are paid, degreed teachers. But the mamas said, I've always wanted my baby in a Christian school. I could never afford it. This is such a blessing.
It has to be an incredible value to the family, and to your point right there, you've lifted a significant burden off of these families, because parents being incarcerated, they're already many times having a lower income in their household, especially after an incarceration. It's harder to get a job, harder to have lifestyle. Yeah, so you're assisting that. You also make a comment, and some of the things that I was reading that you provided to us was the way our system is working right now in the prisons themselves is so designed to be punitive, but not necessarily rehabilitative or corrective. So maybe address that for us just a moment as you're seeing it. How maybe something that we as Christians should be praying for, or maybe even speaking to our representatives about.
When we incarcerate someone, we take them out of the tax base. Many of these people do have jobs and they're taxpayers when they go to jail. And so we're interrupting a family, and then the state many times becomes responsible for all of the children who are left behind. They have to go on social services, and we take a tax-paying citizen out of our economy, and then we become responsible for their every need. We have to give them medical care and their food and everything else. So it's becoming non-sustainable for our state, because we are incarcerating so many people for non-violent issues, and low-level nonviolent crimes are the ones that I think we're finding that there are some alternative ways of dealing with that besides incarceration, because for one thing, it's a lot cheaper to take somebody through drug rehab than it is to put them in prison.
Correct.
And it's much more effective, especially when you add the faith component.
Absolutely. So it's an awesome solution, I think, that will create a new environment. And in our next segment, we'll talk a little bit about caregivers. We'll talk a little bit maybe even about some of the faculty that you have and why they've chosen this environment to release their skills and their gifts and their talents and their faith into a very unique and special opportunity as well. Because I think it does contribute to breaking that generational cycle of repetitive behavior. You know, they often say children of alcoholics become alcoholics, children of drug addicts many times are more susceptible to the drug culture. So it makes sense that those people that are exposed to the incarcerated lifestyle potentially could fall back into that trap. And so the step that you are taking to break that cycle, give them a new direction, show them an alternative pathway, is to be greatly, greatly commended. So we're going to be back in just a few minutes and talk a little bit more with Robin about the caregivers and the faculty and people who contribute in this broadcast about the children of incarcerated parents. So we'll be right back with more Joy in Our Town.